Good morning, Scoobs. It is September 19th, 2025. It's about 10 o'clock, and it is Friday. That's right. It's Friday. We're working our way into the weekend. And you know what that means? The kids will have their play. Anyway, let's go over what we've got going on here. And yeah, we'll jump into a couple things that I want to talk to you guys about today, because the analysis is still kind of following where we were yesterday. That's slowly bleeding out into fruition. So yeah, let's jump into it. All right, first things first. This is where we were yesterday. This was news play Thursday. We worked our way up. And now we worked our way back down to the middle. If you go and take a look back at the yesterday's video, I mentioned that I would be looking at this area to add on to my long, which I have. I was here in this long, and I've taken profit along the way. Actually, I took profit, I think, over here, something like that. And I have now just, why is this thing selected? I have now just added on to my long as soon as we got over to this 50% line. Okay. So my position has now shifted here. I've taken my profits that I got up here. I threw it back into this position, and it shifted my line to over here. Here is now my entry. Okay, and I will be looking to take profit up here, right where this one's going to be taken out. So I am looking for this to possibly move up to this section, and then hopefully eventually right there where I will be looking to really take aggressive profit to kind of close out this trade that was here. Okay, and I'll look for another one. Now, the reason why I decided to add on to my trade was because we are now grabbing a hold of this 50% line. And usually when we get over to the 50% line and we have some kind of reaction of some sort or some kind of strength, it's going to hit the top. So I am looking for this liquidity to be knocked out here, and it to come up to this order block. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm hoping for. But if we get down a lot lower to like this section right here, I am looking to cut my trade if we get below here. Okay? If we get below here, I'm going to cut my trade. The reason why is because we would now be underneath the 50% line, which I believe we are going to revisit over here. And instead of holding on to the trade and, you know, basically adding on again, what I can do is I can kind of eliminate the idea of going underwater and then just kind of like watch what's going on and then possibly throw in some more at this point, right? So that's my plan for lower. My plan for higher is exactly what I said. I am looking for it to come up here, okay? Along the way, we should find some kind of resistance right over here, like meaning like we should pop and then, you know, possibly go up like that. So that's truly what I'm looking for, this kind of movement here, right to there, okay? So I'm in for the ride. And as you can see, like, you know, as we look at these candles on the 12-hour time frame, right? What matters is not necessarily the wicks when it comes to this 50% line. It's the body. See the body, the body, the body, the body, this closing underneath. I mean, it's closing above. As soon as we start feeling like we are actually closing a body underneath, that's when I'm going to feel like we are going to revisit the side again. So until we get there, at this point, we are on this side of the range. Okay, so that being said, that's where I'm at. I added to my long, playing the side of the range here, and yeah, hopefully it kind of plays out. The other thing is you could start to see like some serious patterns that most people would start to see right now. So if you look, this looks like a head and shoulders, a reverse head and shoulders, okay? And, or better yet, it can look like a cup and handle, right? So if I go like this, we can start getting there, and then we've got the, you know, the handle that might be forming, you know. So all of these are starting to feel like we're going to push up. Okay, now let's jump over to Ethereum because I do want to touch on some other topics real quick that I feel like will be helpful. Oh, what is this? Oh my gosh, I got to clean up this side of the chart. Let's ignore this side. Let's ignore this side of the chart. Let me drop this over here. I want to pretend it doesn't even exist. That side of the chart does not exist. Okay, so Ethereum is still finding, this is the 50% line right here between the two ranges from here to here, okay? We are starting to get strength on this side. So what I did was I added on to my long again. So I added on to my long twice. I was in a long over here. I took my profit. I threw it in. I took some profit over here. And now what I did was I threw more of that profit into this position, which shifted my line right here. If we get below this candle, I will cut my trade. In fact, I gotta just move my stop loss up. Okay, so that is my this is my area here. Ooh, yep. So it would be underneath this candle right there. Right here. There we go. So what I'll do is I will look to the left to see what's over to the left, like so, to see what else might be in there. And these candles right here will play a role. So let me just make sure that I'm underneath there, which I am. I am underneath. So if these guys taken out, I should be good enough underneath there. So now this is my new position right here. And I'm hoping that we don't get down here. Okay. So this is my new position. And you can see I added on to it right there. So this one is no longer in play. I've taken a good amount of profit from there. And yeah. Okay. So I do feel like we will be ripping up here. The thing is about Ethereum, which I've been trying to say before, is that if we do come back up here, I do feel like we're going to break a little bit higher. Okay. And it could be a ridiculous move, an absolutely 100% ridiculous move. So I do feel like Ethereum is worth the gamble, right? More than Bitcoin, because we can possibly see a candle that kind of rips up. Let's take a look over at Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum dominance. Looks like Ethereum dominance is starting to break this line a little bit. It looks like it's tapped it a couple times, and we are at this point where, yeah. So if we go below this line right over here, notice where I use my candles. These are the candles over here that I'm using because we've got so many points. Look, point here, point here, point here. Now, why didn't I use this one? Because there are a lot more points touching this line than this one. This is the anomaly. So we're just going to notate it, but we're not going to, we're not necessarily going to use that for the support line, right? So if we break this yellow line here, then we could possibly be going up. Now, let's go take a look over at Bitcoin dominance, because again, Bitcoin dominance has, like, it was stuck in the mud. So here we go. Yeah. All right, great. So we started moving down yesterday, and this is a very sluggish looking channel. Looks pretty crazy. Actually, let me go like this. Yeah. Okay. I'll take that. Let me see something. Yeah, look at that. That's it. That's it right there. Yeah. I'm hoping we break this. If we break that, then, looks like Ethereum and alts will have a run. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for Bitcoin. Oh, look at that. Let's get this. I'm looking for Bitcoin dominance to come over here. This is the area of support that I'm looking for it to hit. You know, it encompasses all of this, including this candle right over here. This is where I'm looking for it to go. So if it goes there, then definitely we are on the Ethereum dominance side. And that means that alts are going to push up as well. Okay. So, yeah, that's that. I think that's good. Let's go take a look at S&P 500. Just take a glance at it. Ah, yes. Yes. Okay. So, on this trend line here, we've got 1, 2. I would be looking for a third at this point, coming over here, and then, you know, possibly breaking at that point to head back over to this line. So I'll stretch this line out for now. And again, you could see my thought in the other videos. Seems to be playing pretty well. Yeah, cool. All right, so now let me get to another topic that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about like moments, right? Moments in these charts. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let me get rid of this. Let's see if we've got a clean chart here. In fact, let me just hit this trash all button. There we go. Okay. Now, I'm giving you guys an insight of how I look at these charts. And what's important is that you be able to look at these charts yourself and pick up what I'm giving you and kind of make some analysis yourself. If we are looking at this chart here the way that it is, just like this, it's really hard to figure out exactly what's happening, right? So I'm going to give you an analogy. If I were to draw a circle like this, okay, on the screen, and I asked you to draw this circle, you know, some people will draw it like this. Some people will draw it like that, like it, you know, everything else out there. But if I told you instead to draw a box like so, and in that box, make sure that you break it into quarters, right? And then you're going to break it again like so. If I said that now draw a circle and make sure that you are always touching the edge right here on the cross that you have, okay? If I were to do this, just like this, these guides will help me make a circle, okay? These guides are important because then what you could do is you can actually break apart this into sections. Like, for example, only draw this section over here, or only draw this section over here. But also, the other thing that it does is if I were to take this and draw a box like so, and said to draw a circle in it, you would already have the guidelines that you understand here, 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 here. If you break them into a cross like so, you'll be able to draw a circle that works within there. And again, like I'm just going to kind of follow the measure of what I was saying before, like this from corner to corner, right? Like that. And then I will draw a circle inside and I'll make sure that this all touches. And now we've changed the perspective of it, okay? But the reason why I'm showing you this is because these guidelines mean a lot, okay? No engineer builds a building without any kind of guidelines or guidance or any kind of sketch. So when you're looking at these charts, it's hard to look at these charts with just no lines on them at all. So it's important that you sit there and you mark things off. And if you don't know where to mark things off, it's really, really simple. Find points that match each other, just like so. And it doesn't matter that you're putting the line on and not knowing if it's correct or not. What matters is that you connected the points. And then do the same thing on the upper side. Find the points that seem to match, like so, okay? And if I were to draw a line here now, like this, what you've got is you've got a little bit more visibility as to what the chart is doing. These guidelines give you a focus as to see the circle, understand where things are, and you can kind of maneuver through it. It gets that simple with these things, but the common factor is finding the points that touch each other, okay? The more points that touch a line, the more relevant the line is. And also what you can do is you can stretch these lines out like this, okay? If you stretch these lines out and then you take another, get rid of that, you take another and you move it to touch the points that are above, common points, like so, you now start to get an idea as to what the range might be doing, what the chart might be doing, because these lines are being used to kind of focus you and see these things. Now, the one thing that I wanted to kind of go over is exactly this. These are moments in time, okay? I don't care if you think we are going higher. It's just an opportunity for somebody to make money. And when they make enough money, they end up taking that money, okay? And the chart ends up dropping. Usually what happens is anytime the chart moves up, like so, you have a competing take profit. And notice we're kind of under that spot, you know? And again, like here, we made gains and then people start taking profit, right? And if you took a long over here, right? And you know, they made their profit and then they sell. You know, they sell, and then look, we went below that area. It becomes hard to see it on a chart that looks like this as to how to kind of like take your profit, because this is kind of a slow bleed. But the one thing I want to show you is this. When there's a pop-up like this, be sure to understand that regardless how high it goes, they're going to start to take profit. Regardless of how high it goes, people are going to take profit, right? And usually the profit is going to sink a lot lower than where you were before, okay? So it's important, or it'll revisit the area that it came from. What's important is that when you have enough profit, stop getting greedy. Take your profit. This is what happens when you hold too long and you start round tripping things, okay? Understand that the opportunity is going to be over and over and over again for you to make profit. All right? Now, let's talk about patterns for a second. Here's a pattern right here. This is a flag, okay? And usually what a flag does in this range right here is we start to scribble out in here, and there's all sorts of profit taking and consolidation that's being done there. And what's supposed to happen is it's supposed to rip up further like this, right? But what happens after this is important, okay? Usually when there's some kind of movement like this, especially where it starts ranging pretty long, like so, what happens is the chart ends up retracing back down. And now this flag pattern that once was is now a head and shoulders pattern, right? And you could see it. Not only that, but if we go up and we do a double touch, it becomes an M pattern, right? Or it becomes a Bart pattern, like so, okay? So all of these patterns bleed into each other. While you might be looking at a flag pattern, it does not mean that it's going up forever. It just means that it's moving up to its next tier, to a bigger pattern that you'll see. So you can get that's why, you know, on one of these days, I drew this flag pattern like this, and I said to ignore it, because what really is important is the range that's inside of it, right? The range that's going inside of it matters more than if it's going to go up, right? Or it's going to go down, because a flag pattern can easily turn into a Bart pattern, or a flag pattern can easily turn into an M pattern, a double touch, right? It can easily turn into that. What matters is what's going on in here, this range. If you'll be able to see if there was a manipulation out or manipulation up, you could have taken advantage of this section. So all of these things are momentary. It's important to understand that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go jump over to some stocks so that you could see what I mean by that. So let me, let's go to this one, for example. Okay. So this one, you could see these are moments. Okay. Right here. Now, if you got a position over here and you made some money going up, great. When you have a long bullish movement, notice it does not go up forever. In fact, what it does is it retraces, and then it goes lower than where it came from, okay? And again, like we came up here and look, they took profit, and then look what it's doing, right? Now, the thing is, eventually it'll go up here. It'll go up here again, right? Because it needs to, like somewhere along the line. But it could very well come down here. And if you did not take profit, no profit here, then what you're doing is you're holding the bag and basically losing the opportunity to actually make 2 times the gain. Okay? It is important not to get locked in the idea that you've got a really great position and that, you know, there's no reason why you need to sell your position because you got here and you've got a gain. Well, here's why you don't want to do that, is because even if you got a good position over here, if you took profit over here and then, you know, this chart goes down here. Now, I'm not saying take full profit. You could take half profit. I mean, I don't really care, right? But if it came down over here, if you throw your money in over here and it goes back up, well, guess what? You made more money, right? And this position doesn't matter. It doesn't. Because you are exploiting the chart in a way that you can make money. Don't get locked on I had a great position. Because you had a great position here at one point, and when it went up, guess what? Now you're completely underwater. You suck, right? Like it did not work out for you. And now if you did not throw any more money over here, you know, to DCA in and bring your position lower, you were just riding the elevator up and down without making any gains. This whole section here is just a waste of time. Okay? Now, I did say before that when what you want to do is you want to buy when there's fear in the market, right? And that's an easy thing to say because you'll say to yourself when we're down here, yeah, I don't think I really should buy. Like, this just seems like it's a dead chart, right? If you feel yourself talking like that, maybe it's time to buy. The other thing is you want to sell, you know, in greed. The reason why is because when you start feeling like you've made enough money, like, oh my gosh, I made money, right? But I don't want to take it because I want to go a lot higher. Yo, sell a portion of your bag. Lock those profits in. Because there's no reason why you can't throw the profits right back in. You didn't waste time. You built a position. Okay? So now, there was one thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and it was actually about GME. Okay? And one thing that I wanted to bring up the point about GME is why, if you're familiar with Roaring Kitty, why he loved GameStop so much. Okay? GameStop had this position in here. Now, watch the pattern. This is dropping. Yeah, there's nothing but fear if you were to buy over here. But look at this move. My goodness, that was a great move. And if you would have sold at this point, regardless of what, regardless of anything, look at this. Look at this. This pattern here is a gold, like this is like, if you could see this going completely down like this, if you see this pattern happening in anywhere else, forget this line right here. In fact, let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of that line. Because what matters is this line, because there's liquidity that's being built up all over the place of people losing money. As soon as it breaks this part, right? Fear. Oh, this is a dead stock, right? Look at what it did. Look what it did. It went ballistic, right? And now what happens is Roaring Kitty, he spent some time away from the chart, and look, the pattern happened again. And as soon as he came out and said, oh, yo, I'm going to buy some GameStop, look what it did. He didn't move this chart. This chart moved at the same pattern just like Ethereum moved. Just like Ethereum's pattern right over here. Okay? If we were to look at this pattern is the same as the GameStop pattern, except it's a lot tighter. Okay? When you're looking at stocks, there's a question that you have to ask yourself. When would you really, truly want to buy in? Okay? So let me give you another one here. Let me get rid of this. Let me give you another one. This is probably a really good example of one to look at because it becomes obvious, right? If I were to ask you, where would be the best place for you to buy this stock? I hope you would say right here. Okay? Because when this starts launching off like this and you were to see this chart, this is not the place. Nope. You do not buy when there's greed. Instead, you wait. You wait until the fear comes back. And now you have an opportunity to make this gain. Is it going to come back up here? Sure, eventually. When? I'm not sure, right? But if you had a position right over here, and I were to measure this from the bottom to the top, that's a 800% gain. That's an 8x in stock. In stock, right? So while this chart is going down like this, right? And you already know where it launched from, right? You see where it launched from. You find where the break was. Look at this gap that's here. Wow, this is something, right? Look, it came back. So I'm going to draw, no, I'm going to draw a line here from here to over here. Look at this. This is the area you'd want to buy this stock. And believe it or not, even if it goes up to hit this spot right over here to create a range, you're in a really good spot. I would take profit right over here. And then I wouldn't take 100%. I would only take a portion. So what I would like you to do is, because the weekend I do not trade or anything like that, and because there are so much stuff that's going on in the market, especially in stocks, you can actually look at all of these stocks here and see exactly where you would love to buy, right? And here's Tesla, for example. If this is where you would love to buy, then mark it out and say, I would like to buy right here. And then leave that marking on the chart. And if it does come back down here, you've got that opportunity, right? Because we've got this spike up. And again, if you don't believe that that's going to happen, look at what the chart does. Look, spike up, down, spike up, spike up, spike up, down. Look at this. It's got this it's got this pattern here. Look, look. So there's no reason why you can't sit there and say, hey, you know what? It's possible for it to come down here. Find the order blocks. Find the range. Anyway, that's my introduction to the stocks. We will go into a lot further. Maybe I'll make a video this weekend to talk more about stocks that have the potential, especially stocks like this BNC, especially stocks like this, GNS, this DeFi. Right here, you can see there's a pattern starting to form out. So where would you like to buy in it? And again, things like GameStop and everything like that. So anyway, this is a long video. Hopefully you have a good weekend, and we'll see where we go from here, right? So you've got my plan. Talk to you soon.